everybody. This is Terry with the Premom team with our special guest again, Nurse Linda.
Hello.
I'm really excited because we have a great idea from Nurse Linda. We had a great panel last Friday, and this is a carryover, a really important topic about relationships and being TTC. Here's the whole title in case you missed it. Self-empowerment in your relationships while TTC, creating a healthy, supportive environment. Linda, can you talk about a little bit about how you got the idea for this topic?
Gosh, I mean, honestly, probably the emotional side of infertility is probably the roughest part. There's a lot physically you go through, but none of it really holds a candle to the emotional side of everything. And when I say emotional, that obviously this includes relationships with, well, most important with ourselves, relationships with our partner, family, friends, coworkers, etc. Last week we discussed our relationship with the social media community as well. So this is everything. This is what makes or breaks us, because the reality is, physically, you're going to get pregnant when you get pregnant, however which way the planets align and it works out. But there's not a lot we can do to make that happen, but we can help trying to get you through this emotionally, to cut back on the damage and the scarring that could happen psychologically and emotionally. So that's kind of where this topic is from. And it's not as, mechanical as the other stuff, but to me, it's the most important aspect by far, because it most certainly is something that everybody who's trying to conceive goes through. From the gal who doesn't have any diagnostic problems, her and her partner decided, you know what, let's have a baby, let's get pregnant. All the way to the other end, to the woman who's gone through 6 IVFs and everything else in the world, they all still have a lot of the same fears. So that's why this discussion applies to almost everybody trying to conceive. So
I think this is such a great topic at this time too, because we are smack dab in the middle of 2 holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And this is when people do tend to see their family even on Zoom and have to think about how they're going to approach what they're going through with other people. Can you talk about what suggestions you have for dealing with holidays and interacting with family?
Wow. So there's so many dynamics there, right? The bottom line is, though, the rule is you do emotionally whatever you want to do emotionally. Okay. I know, again, I tend to tap into sometimes my own experience, but I build a lot of my thoughts and opinions off of that. It's really tough when you're trying to conceive, because there are times it's just, consumes you, and all you want to do is talk about it with different people and just get feedback or just commiserate or anything. But then likewise, there are other times you are really done and you don't want to talk about this right now. You don't want everybody looking at you with what you think is pity, and just feeling bad for you. So you want to talk about, let's make cookies and let's go shopping and let's talk about, what's going on with, Aunt Mildred. And you don't want to talk about this anymore right now. But the problem is nobody else out there knows how you feel. Nobody knows that. That's one of the advantages to social media, like we talked about last week, is you can turn it off and on when you want to. Well, now when we're in the holidays and we're either have family over or we've got family on the phone, or, in one way or another, we're somehow communicating with family. And, but the bottom line is there is no right answer. Okay. You have to decide when, or if you want to talk about it. There are some couples in my experience that really do keep it private, just between the two partners. They don't talk about it with anybody else. Nobody else even knows. They'll tell them when they're successful. And then there are others, I fall into this group, who just seem to talk about it and want to blab about it. And, when I got pregnant, I told everybody. And then, of course, that was the pregnancy that miscarried. So that meant I had to go back and tell everybody I miscarried as well. So, people in general are pretty darn supportive, but you have to keep in mind, a lot of people don't know what to say. And oftentimes, even though they mean well, they're saying things that can be upsetting to you. Know that they're really not doing it. I know it's so easy to blame them. Like, you will not believe what my sister said to me. She told me, oh, you're always stressed. Why don't you just relax and it'll happen? And that will make you crazy, or when somebody starts telling you stories of, really, you haven't, God, I didn't even want to get pregnant and I got pregnant. These stories all come out. These people don't understand. They really don't. And so try not to find fault with what they're doing. If you're sensitive like that, which I get, then it's probably best not to talk about it and bring it up, because the truth is there really is nothing anybody can say to make you feel better. Of course, just the general support and a hug and I'm here if you need me or if you want to ever talk, that's always great and wonderful. But people tend to feel like they have to give you advice. They feel like they should say something that would be helpful, especially like older relatives. We feel like there's something we should be telling you. And usually it's the wrong advice. So that's why I say it depends on what you think. If you don't want to talk about it, then by all means, don't. And it's okay for you, by the way, if people do bring it up and you could be light about it, but you can certainly share that, oh gosh, we're giving that a break from talking about it right now, just because you don't want to, but understand all of your emotions are within your control. If you try to put your emotions and how you react on the outside world, then you're going to be out of control of it because you're putting it all on them. But the reality is all of your feelings and emotions are yours and you own them. So try to really comprehend that. So that way you don't let things get to you. People really do. I mean, there's going to be there's a bad seed out there and there's people who can be nasty, but by and large, the people who love you and the people close to you, they don't mean ill will, but about 50% of the time they will say the wrong thing. They don't realize it, but you do. But just try to understand where they're coming from and try not to let it bother you. Just understand the intent and not the words,
Great. And I think we have some follow-up questions related to that, but I just wanted to let people know who are watching that Nurse Linda is available to answer questions live. So as we continue, I'll be keeping an eye and peeking in on your questions. So fire away about relationships and TTC. And also, I just want to make sure everybody knows that Nurse Linda is in our app. In case you haven't seen her in there yet, when you go to more and schedule consultation, you can find her in our nurses section. So I love what you just talked about. We were talking before we started recording about the issue of seeing others around you getting pregnant. It could be coworkers, it could be other people in your family, good friends. And you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but can you talk more about that experience and what to do with those feelings?
Sure. And like a lot of things, right? There's different opinions out there. Nobody's right or wrong. It's just we have different thoughts. Well, this is my thought, and it's not what everybody always thinks. But so again, as a person who's gone through plenty of infertility and IVFs and all that, I've been there, so I know what it feels like. To this day, I find it difficult to walk into those, department stores and see nothing but pregnant tummies. It's funny. I didn't mind seeing babies. I mind seeing pregnant women. And to this day, and I'm way beyond getting pregnant, but still I'm envious. Now, I don't know their stories, by the way, but of course in my head, I create stories like, oh, I'm sure she just tried and got pregnant right away. Or she's got a toddler in the shopping cart and she's pregnant. Oh my God, how dare her be having her second baby when I'm trying to have my first, so I have all those and I do. And this is my advice. Embrace that anger. Does that make sense? I mean, what I'm saying is it's okay. You're not mad at that person. Most of the time, we actually don't even sometimes know them. But even when we do, and they're friends or family, you're going to feel guilty because what on earth did this girl do to get pregnant? What did she do to really stick it to you? Nothing. She wanted to have a baby, or maybe she wasn't planning it and she got pregnant and now she's happy. This had nothing to do with you. Nothing. So don't take it personal, but it is going to bother you and it is going to upset you. And go ahead and embrace that. Don't feel guilty about it, because the truth is all those negative feelings you're having, they're not about her. They're about what's going on with you. And you know what? You should be upset about that. You should feel like life isn't fair. And I'm a good person and I'd make a great mother. How dare the crackhead down the street, blah, blah, blah. There's a million stories, you know. How dare them get pregnant so easily and I can't? We're ready. We have the room. We have, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's okay to feel that. That is so normal. Don't fight it. Of course, don't take it out on anybody. Don't approach the girl in Target and get mad at her for having her second or third baby. But it's okay for you to feel so envious about it. And you'll smile. And of course, you wish her well. Of course you do. You don't want anything bad to happen to people, but it's okay to be envious and it's okay to be kind of pissy about it, you know, because the truth is you're mad at your diagnosis. And a lot of times, you know, you don't even have a diagnosis. Maybe you've only been trying for a couple of 3 months, like a lot of the people on Premom that I consult with. Everything I see about them, they're going to get pregnant. I have no doubt about it. They're going to get pregnant. When? I don't know. I don't know exactly when. But again, it's going to be a rare individual that really needs to go on to much further treatment. But when you're trying to conceive and you thought it was supposed to happen right away and it doesn't, you really feel like, what if it doesn't happen? I mean, what if it doesn't? I never thought about that. Well, it's probably going to happen in the next few months, and you don't need to be embracing the fear you're having right now. But the reality is that fear of thinking I won't be able to procreate or have a child or have a family, when it's like, I've been thinking about it for the last 15 years of my life, you know, since I was a young girl. And that's a really, really scary thought. Even though it's not going to be true, it doesn't matter. It's possible. And so that will put you in a tailspin and make you look at things differently, you know. And quite honestly, most people don't understand that. Even your partners don't understand that. It falls often on the woman to feel this way. But yeah, just like I said, all feelings are good. So don't fight those feelings and don't try to, in my mind, don't try to change it into something positive. And just, it is what it is. It's okay. You're not a bad person because you're envious and you have these thoughts in your head. It's okay. It's okay to do that. It's part of you, again, owning your own emotions, work through it, talk it out with somebody who is safe. You know, there's going to be somebody who understands you when you go, you're not going to believe this woman. Like her kids didn't even seem that clean and she's already pregnant. I mean, you know, you're going to be nitpicky like that, and that's okay. Don't say anything to her, like I said, but it's okay to feel like that. You'll get over it, you know, and it's healthy for you to process a lot of this pain sometimes. Otherwise, you hold it in, and then that's where all that terrible stress and tears, and I break down and I have these, you know, anxiety moments. And nah, just, you know, embrace yourself and embrace these emotions. It's okay.
Fantastic. I think that's good advice for anybody, but as you say, particularly in this situation, when stress
Yeah.
can really affect your fertility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great.
You know, and it's funny. I would comment on that. I mean, stress affects everything, obviously. Now there's stress and then there's stress, right? So we all have stress, 100%. We all have some form of stress. There are levels of stress that people can take to a physical level. That concerns me because anytime your body feels compromised, like somebody who might not be physically healthy, she might not have as easy a time getting pregnant because, again, the body knows it's physically compromised. And the last thing it's going to do is compromise itself more. And of course, even though pregnancies are wonderful things, they absolutely do compromise our body, meaning they just tax all of our important systems in our body. So if your body feels like it's not up to par, it might choose in whatever way it does that it's not right to get pregnant right now. So stress is fine, but you don't want that stress to get to the point of that it's physically debilitating where you're, you know, like to the point of getting sick kind of thing. Then I think it will compromise you. Anything prior to that, don't worry about the stress because we all have it. And if you worry about, I have stress, I'm not supposed to have stress. Well, now you got more stress worrying about stress. Remember what I said, just embrace these emotions you have. Take care of yourself, meaning hug yourself and talk to yourself. You know, you're your own best friend here. And if you don't talk yourself off the ledge sometimes, think about if this was your best friend sitting across from you, what would you say to her? And say that to yourself, you know, so that's why, you know, it's okay to be stressed. It's all right. It's not going to reduce your chance of pregnancy just because you're stressed. However, don't let it get to the point that you're having panic attacks, and that's different.
Right. And then how about that important relationship with your partner? If you are with a partner and trying to get pregnant, do you have tips for that relationship?
Wow, that's rough. Because that's, couple stuff. There's so many facets to that. I mean, my experience is it's rough. It is rough on a couple across the board. The woman is going to be how she is, whatever that means. Okay. And in a lot of relationships, and I'm not picking on men at all, this just tends to be how a lot of the times how it goes. Men try to solve things. So, you ever came home from work and like, you will not believe what Betty did today. Okay. Firstly, she forgets I'm her super, you go on, right? And your husband doesn't even know who these players are. Well, what he should do is go, what? Really? Oh, I can't. She said that? Okay. Just go along with it. I just need you to listen to me. Do not give me advice on what to do. Okay. You really why don't you just tell her that you're like, okay, I can't just do that. That's a dumb suggestion. Now you're getting in a fight. Now you're getting in a fight. And all he was really trying to do was help. But really, when somebody wants to help, they just need to mimic and say back to you whatever you're saying to them and just be a good listener. But they don't. Men try to fix things, and they try to tell you what to do. And the truth is, even though they're going through this too, but they're going through not just trying to become a parent, they're going through also trying to live with their female partner and figure out what to do with her. I once had a couple, it was an IVF couple, and the woman had a real high powered job, and she had just had her embryo transfer. And we always have them lay and relax in a nice, dark, quiet room afterwards for like 15 minutes. So she was doing that. And the husband came out to me at the nurse's station and he said, listen, Linda, can you write a note? Look, she's got a really stressful job. And I just think for at least the next 2 weeks, she should be off work. I don't want her going to work. It's just really high. It's just a high maintenance job. And could you do a letter or something? And I had said to him, I said, we can do something like that. When she comes out, I'll have a chat with her. I knew better than to take his advice. So she came out and, I certainly didn't let her know he said any of those things. Cause again, it probably would have just made her mad. And what I said to her was, listen, what can I do to help you during this time period? And I gave her the basic restrictions, et cetera. Do you need time off work or is there anything? Her response to me was, oh God, no. Are you kidding me? If I don't go to work, I'll be so stressed. First of all, I'll be sitting home doing what? Just mulling this over until I'm insane. So honestly, I know I have a stressful job, but I know how to handle the stress with that. Remember, I mentioned earlier, stress is fine as long as you know how to not get to that level where you get sick from it. She was like, that'll actually distract me and be much better. I was like, oh, no problem. Okay, that sounds like you know what you're doing. But that was an example where the husband was so far off the mark. But look at his intentions. He's just trying to help her. But he really didn't understand. She did, but he didn't. And you could see how that could just blow up into some big fight. And again, husbands need to take the advice sometimes of just listening, and you don't have to fix it. Most often, there's no way to fix it anyway. There's no right answer. He wasn't right, but you know what? His advice or recommendation was going to be right for some women out there. I've had plenty of women who were like, oh, heck no, I don't want to go to work. Are you kidding me? So in that case, he would have been right. But in this case, it wasn't, and he wasn't as tuned into his wife as he thought he was. So that's a couple thing though, otherwise, try to just understand the partner. For you women out there, your partner means well again, but he doesn't know what to do. You sometimes have to tell him what to do. Tell him what you need. Don't get mad at him because he doesn't know what you need automatically. First of all, we all have different needs anyway. But I've had to do that. I've had to say, listen, honey, honestly, when I do this, if you just hug me and rub my back, that'll work. You'd be surprised at how well that will work. Instead, if you try to tell me something, I might just take that and run with it because I'm looking to do that anyway. So those are just relationship, advice that I can give in general. Otherwise, it's difficult. I mean, I've talked to a lot of gals in my consults who I talk with about, when to time intercourse. And I think almost every one of them have had the experience that I've had where this is the night. This is like the main night. And maybe you guys got in a fight earlier, or you're not over the fight you got in yesterday. Well, so what do we do? Well, I can't, and this is where it gets really delicate. I can't go into this with a really bad attitude, or quite honestly, he's going to be so upset. I'm not sure he's going to be able to perform. And that's a whole nother problem. Poor guys, so you've got to be sensitive to that. You go through this whole thing, right? I know a lot of you women will understand this, where you have to, I'm going to say fake, but you have to maybe really act like you're into it because you need him just to simply be able to perform. And that's like really stressful. You can't just tell him, come on, can you just get this done? That's not going to work to help his performance, and sometimes you just need to get it done. That's really hard. And you know what? If you have to skip a month because it's getting this problematic, then skip a month, because you're gonna get pregnant, you're gonna have that family, but you really need your marriage or your relationship to stay intact. So focus on that first. Okay, your relationship really should be number one. And this is something you're doing together, but boy, that's a tough one with relationships.
Yeah, that was great. You anticipated some of my follow-up questions, because I was thinking as we're talking. Some women talk about just what you're saying, like we need to have sex now, and the partner's just not in the mood, or you're drilling home like all this wonderful tracking you're doing with Premom, and like he's just not in the same mindset, or you feel like you want to get sperm tested and he doesn't want to. So
right.
and like you're saying, like the relationship comes first, and it really has to be give and take. I'm guessing communication is really important. And I
That's
like
right. That's exactly. Yeah. There's certain some fairness quotients here. You're right. The women are busting their butts, doing things, working hard. We're both going to benefit. But quite honestly, partner, what is it I ask you to do? What's the one thing I ask you to do and I need you to do? That's it. You have to ejaculate. That's it. And this is going to be difficult for you. Well, it is, especially when, we're trying to have them do this 3 days in a row. And, again, men don't always work like they're supposed to. And especially when he's got pressure, and so, but certainly there are fairness, elements, like you're doing all this. And I encourage my patients to really seriously consider getting that sperm tested. I mean, you've got in-home semen analysis. You can go on the internet and Google it. Get a semen analysis done. I mean, he ejaculates in a cup at home. Trust me, he knows how to do that. Okay. But it will make a difference to, again, if there's really something faulty about a sperm count, and there might be, then you might be just wasting all this time. And again, I don't want you to pay that emotional price. And I hope that's not the case. But if this isn't the way you're meant to have a baby, then I just don't need you going through all these crises month after month. When again, there are other elements, again, a lower sperm count or motility, then, there are things like inseminations where they, if you will, buff up the sperm so it's much better, and really increase your odds, so I really do encourage, in fairness, men should be willing to do that much, but we can't yell at them, and tell them they have to perform, or that will backfire. We know that.
Yeah, and it is nice that there are more and more options now, like as you said, for making things easier.
Yep, exactly.
And we did have a question that came from last time, a follow-up question that was related back to what you're talking about with family. They're saying, how do you navigate family that doesn't want to know anything about the TTC journey unless it's viable, in quotes?
Wow. So that's a little different. Because usually, again, family, we all want to be in each other's business. And if I know my nieces, got married a year or two ago, and I know somebody mentioned she's trying to conceive, mostly that family is always on top of her, like, oh, how you doing? You guys thinking about having a baby? Oh, you're working on it. We want to talk about it. So it's unusual to have family say, don't tell me about it unless it's viable. I'm not sure what's behind that, except for probably they don't want to have to sift through the difficultness of what if it doesn't work right away, and while you're trying to conceive you become a little bit more emotional, and or what if you do conceive and you miscarry, and they don't want to have to be there to pick up the pieces, and they don't want to have to take you through that level of therapy and your relationship with them, so they want to wait until it's safe. Well, even though that might not work for you, you might want to talk with them. Trust me when I tell you, if they don't want to talk about it, it's probably best that you don't. So again, they're owning their feelings. They know that it would be better for them if they didn't know about this until it was something that was viable. So probably we should listen to them, and again, they must have their own reasons for wanting to do that. Most often the question is when do I talk about it, or do I talk about it? Because again, there's a spectrum. Like I said earlier, some people never bring it up. Like nobody, friends, family, nobody knows they're doing the test kits and the temperature. They're not telling anybody. And when they get pregnant, they're probably not telling anybody until they're through the first trimester. That's changing a little bit now just because of social media. There are so many people out there now, and it's, and they're getting out there and they're telling everybody. And I'm talking more about your influencers who are more prevalent. What's nice now compared to the old days, if you will, is that now while I am trying to conceive, and maybe I don't want to talk about it with family, and I'm not telling people, most certainly I'm not telling coworkers, etc. But you know what? I can get on the Premom group, and quite honestly, I mean, they know me as Susan, and I can talk about it with them. And you know what? If I decide I don't want to talk about it anymore, then you know what? Click out of the group for a minute and don't talk about it. Again, own your emotions. And that's the beauty with, even though I'm not a huge fan of social media for this, I am a huge fan for the support that social media provides you. So if you are somebody who feels like you need to talk about it more and you don't have family around you to support that, well, that's the beauty of our Premom group. And there's a lot of trying to conceive groups out there as well, where you can talk about it when you want to.
And related to that, if you do have family that's kind of the opposite and you're wanting to kind of wait, and they're asking questions that are very consistent and making you uncomfortable, what do you suggest for those situations?
Right. Well, I mean, if you've got somebody who and again, people don't know any better. Remember, you probably brought it up in the beginning because you didn't think there. You're like, oh yeah, we decided after the beginning of the year we're going to try to get pregnant. Okay, you brought it up. So when you run into them in February, they're going to ask about it because it's in their mind polite. You mentioned you were starting a job after the beginning of the year. When they see you in February, they're going to ask about, oh, how's the new job? So they're just asking about it because it's something you brought up. Then of course, March becomes April, May, June, and you've been trying. And now maybe we're down in the summer. It's been now you're stressing. Am I ever going to get pregnant? Am I ever going to be a mom? And you just don't want to go into it right now because you don't want to share all those fears with them, but you also just don't want to play it off like, oh, we're taking a break, or I don't know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, if we do, we do, when it's a lot more serious than that for you. So that's a tough one. I mean, certainly just letting them know that, you know what, we're working on it, but it seems like the less attention I give it, the better. So, and it's a subtle hint. I don't want to talk about it without having to say, I don't want to talk about it. So something like that, you just gotta, it's like anything in life that, you're trying to be, fair to somebody else who doesn't have any ill will, but you just don't want to go into it. So just say it, yeah, you want to be gentle about it though, because you don't want, bad vibes, but.
Yeah, because they genuinely want to know usually, and they don't know what you're going through.
Exactly. And then, there's a lot of privacy in this stuff. There's a lot of intimacy here that I don't want to. Do you really want me to tell you about how your son couldn't get an erection the other day. And so we had, you want me to tell you about that? I can tell you about it if you want. No, of course not. We're not going to talk about those things, but if you really want to know how it's going, that's how it's going. So nobody wants to know how it's going, so, and if you don't want to talk about it, but then, when you turn it off, then nobody's going to want to talk about it, and it'll be up to you to bring it back up. But like I said, there's nothing wrong with telling people, you know what, we are working on it, but I'm just trying not to give it a lot of mental attention. It's going to be what it's going to be, but then on the other hand, if, you feel like you do, you can talk about it safely, but you're in charge of that. You just let people know what you want to do. The beauty is you've got, like I said, these groups, and I read these boards, and these girls are such great support for each other. I just love what I see. Every day I read more and more posts, and, sometimes it's good news, and they found out they're going to be pregnant for the holidays. And other times they just got their period and they know they're not going to be pregnant for the holidays. And what a great, safe group to be able to talk about that with, because the girls come out and they're sorry or they're happy. And, it really is a great form of support. So I do suggest using that probably more than the real life stuff, because the truth is too, what are people going to start to do when you talk about it? They're going to start to give you advice. Most of them don't know what they're talking about when it comes to this advice. They've just got some kind of real life experience. It's like when you ask somebody about a birth, right? There are about a bajillion different birth stories, but it all ends up the same. A baby's put in the mama's arms, but there's like a million different ways it could go. There's no right way. Well, this is kind of like that, so you don't really want advice from people. I don't even want you really to take advice from Dr. Google either. That's what your consults are about, and that's what your Premom app is about, and that's what, there are plenty of people out there. You don't have to go make a physician's appointment, but take advantage of, there are so many great consultants on the Premom app for whatever you might want to focus on. Take advantage of that. It will mentally really help you. And then you can go back to your Premom group for support and not necessarily advice.
We have a comment. What I've been struggling with is everyone telling me to just relax and it will happen. I might cry if I'm told that one more time.
She's no kidding. People don't know what to say. That's like the best they got. But you know what? Everybody can, right? Everybody knows the story. We finally stopped doing all that, temperatures and pee sticks, and finally it happened. It's just, I got pregnant when I wasn't paying, or, the old stories of, we adopted a baby and I got pregnant the next month. And everybody goes, oh, that's because the stress level went down or whatever, or I finally stopped doing IVF. I canceled all my infertility treatment and I got pregnant the next month. Okay. Those stories are real. They do happen, but they're rare. It's just that we don't remember. We didn't hear the other 98 stories that didn't go like that. We only hear the 2 that went like that. And then it seems like that's what's prevalent, when the truth is it's not. So yeah, that is poor advice, and you relaxing and it will happen is absolutely not true. Go ahead and be who you are. Again, worry if you want to. It's not going to stop you from getting pregnant. Again, don't let yourself get to the point where you, if you will, worry yourself sick. Not like that, but you're going to be stressed and you're going to worry, and that's okay. And sometimes, you know what? You've got to teach people. You've got to tell them, oh, actually, this is stressful, but it's okay. I'm all right. I understand how it works. So, it'll happen. You're right in that it will happen when it happens, but it won't have anything to do with what my emotional status is right now. That's the truth.
Yeah, I like that. That getting clear with what is true for you, and then in a gentle, kind way, sharing that with other people is what I'm gathering from you.
Yeah. And then sometimes when it's like a coworker who sits 4 doors down from you, you don't know her that well. So, you may not want to go into the details. So, you're going to probably have to hear a couple of these. Oh, relax. Oh, and, this happened to my aunt. And, you may have to, because you don't want to get into it with them. And That's just is what it is. It's like anything else. Somebody getting married is getting advice. Somebody giving birth is getting advice. Somebody trying to lose weight is getting advice. I want to start working out. Oh, they're getting advice. So this is perfectly normal. This is what people, it's what you do too. You do this on a million topics and you might not say the right thing either. That's because we're all human. That's all. And you may very well have said something like this to somebody once, long before you were trying to get pregnant. You may have done or said something just like it. You didn't mean any ill will. So I can't control any of that. I can only control how I absorb it. Just know that people they're trying, they're lacking, they don't know what to say.
Someone is responding to what you said and said they're so happy they found the group. Thank you. Yay.
Oh, good. That's awesome. Although, these people will become like your intimate, just best. That's why I say I love social media for this support. When I went through my miscarriage, like I said, there were times where it was a Tuesday at 2:00. There was nothing that happened that would set me off, but I got set off. And, I don't want to call somebody and like tell them for the umpteenth time, oh, I'm crying again because I miscarried, but I know I can go on to that group and I can talk all I want. And it's the right time for me, and then there are times that I don't want to talk about it. I'm not just a miscarriage, I'm somebody else, but everybody's looking at me so sad. So, again, you can stay away from the group during those times if that's what you want. That's what's great about social media and support.
Yes, someone followed up and said, oh, we got a couple comments. Great explanation. Thank you. I think that was about the relax and it will happen advice you're giving.
Yeah.
Another comment, I have made a few incredible TTC ladies who I talk to almost daily. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that is. That's, you still got to be careful, but try to find a couple of people that, you can really trust, and then we had that whole conversation about social media, but you can't get away from the support, and the only thing I have to say is sometimes, I had this experience with, and this is like my advice to the gals who are on these boards, and that like I'd have a patient who did IVF and she had her beta HCG test. And, in general, it should double every couple of days and it shouldn't go down. And there's some telltale signs that we know what is a good trend and a bad trend. And as the nurse, I'll be honest and I'll let them know. Of course, anything can happen, but when I see a beta do this kind of trend, I'll let her know it doesn't usually pan out well, I'm trying to let her know what's coming, and oftentimes they'll get on their groups and they'll say, has anybody had a beta that went from 50 to 60 in 2 days and then it dropped and then was 50 again too, and they still were pregnant? Oh, trust me, somebody's got a story somewhere like, oh yeah, that happened. Oh, my beta didn't. Oh, it's fine. Doctors' offices are so quick to tell you, and they almost become, what do I want to say, like over supportive to the point that, you're not doing anybody any good, by trying to color something a certain way. Like you'll see, like on our boards there, somebody will say, I need a second set of eyes. Does anybody see a second line? And I was really impressed because there were girls who were like, I'm sorry, honey, I don't see it. They want to see it, but they're being honest and they don't see it. And they know what she's looking for. They know she would love to have 20 replies that go, are you kidding? It's clear as day. I see it. And another one that says it and another one. But, the reality is be honest, be honest with these gals. The truth is, whatever it is, trying to sugarcoat it, it's only going to make the pain worse later, so keep it real, I guess is what I want to say.
Wrap it up there.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Nurse Linda, for talking about how to approach your relationships while you're TTC. You really covered the gamut of all different types of relationships that we have. Thank you for going in depth there. And then for opening yourself up to an open Q&A. We got a lot of people who jumped in at the end. So thank you all for catching that. If you missed the beginning, please go back and watch that part of the presentation. And thank you for asking all those questions.
Sure. And this is a heavy topic, the emotional side of things. So I do encourage people to, I mean, I can tell you from my experience with the consults, I mean, oftentimes they're going in with like a physical, like, could you look at my chart? And I had a question about, but then, and that takes about 10 minutes. Then for the next 20 minutes, we talk about this. It's like, I'm going to say therapy for lack of a better word, but this is what they need. You know, people need to know how to handle real life stuff. So don't hesitate. If you're feeling like you need it, grab one of these consultants. There's a whole bunch of us. Somebody will be right for you. And even if you don't have something specific to talk about, like what day should my LH surge fall on, but maybe you just need to chat. All of us have experience with this. So don't hesitate to make a consultation and consider it a little one-on-one therapy time. You deserve it and you probably need it. So we're all here for that.
I love that. Right in your app. Come check them out. Find Nurse Linda, right, and schedule consultation. Right. And thank you again for being on with us, and we'll see you again probably soon.
Of course. Absolutely, guys. Have a great night.